welcome into the CHGO White Sox post-game show. Coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, CHGO White Sox community leader, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at EctorWall23. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. And we are also joined by CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinnie Duber. You could join him, or you can follow him at Vinnie Duber and read his work up at allchgo.com. We're being produced today by Sarah.
Hi.
Hello. And we got four pitches from Garrett Crochet before the game was put into a delay. And then around 8:45, we got a text from Vinnie that the game has been canceled. So, doubleheader action tomorrow. And Vinnie, I guess you have news on who's pitching for Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, so kind of a weird situation here. The game was not canceled. The game was paused. The game was suspended. It will be resumed tomorrow, 4 pitches in. And so you will see Chris Flexen, quote unquote, start that game, but it will actually be a relief appearance as he will be subbing in for Garrett Crochet, who only threw 4 pitches tonight, is the starter. That game will resume at 4:10 tomorrow, and then no earlier than 7:10, the regularly scheduled contest for Wednesday night will occur, and that'll be a bullpen game for the White Sox tomorrow night.
And we're assuming that you didn't chat with Grady Sizemore post-game, if you could even call it post-game, but is
Mid-game.
this kind of... Mid-game, right. Is this kind of a break for them? Because we've been talking about, and we'll hear from Brian Bannister a little bit later about Garrett Crochet's work usage. Is this kind of like a lucky break for them that, Garrett Crochet throws 4 pitches, gets his work in, he, gets his 5th day of work, and then, he's going to be off for the next 4 days? Or do you think they'll try to work him in this week?
No, I would imagine it'll be back to, just kind of the regular schedule. I mean, this is start number 27 for Garrett Crochet, and it probably was only going to last 3 or 4 innings anyway. We did hear from Grady earlier today saying that they do plan to kind of shrink that workload even more over the course of the last month of the season. So even a 4-inning start, if you get it from Garrett Crochet here, maybe next time out, isn't going to be the norm by season's end. But who knows? Maybe a day like today bought him an extra inning or 2 down the line.
And correct me if I'm wrong, with the 2-2 count, if Chris Flexen goes out there and strikes out Marcus Semien, that's a Garrett Crochet strikeout, correct?
I think so. I'm not entirely sure of the rules there. It might be scorer's discretion. I'm not quite sure. But, I mean, Garrett got the first 2 strikes, so if it is scorer's discretion, I guess he had the majority of the 3 that you're talking about there.
And just because you brought up scoring changes, first off, love the fact that Danny Jansen became the first ever player to catch his own at-bat because of a delayed game between the Blue Jays and Red Sox just a couple days ago. And then there was also a insane scoring change in the Marlins and Cubs game. I'm trying to find it, but a lot of fun things. Oh, yeah. So there was a game where Jesus Sanchez was intentionally walked, but he never went to first base. So then they had to figure out how he was out because the pinch runner wasn't out, but Sanchez had to be out. Anyways, it'll be fun for the score tomorrow. The big news that we're going to be asking you about today, Vinny, before we let you go and head home and try to beat the rain, we saw a roster move before today's game that had people a little up in arms. Jacob Amaya was added to the 26-man active roster. We talked about this yesterday. This happened with De Los Santos, the bullpen arm. They were waiting to give him an assignment. Talked about that yesterday. He gets an assignment today. Amaya added to the 26-man roster. Along with that, Prelander Baroa recalled from Class AAA Charlotte. John Brebbia gets designated for assignment for Baroa, but then Brian Ramos gets optioned back to AAA Charlotte. Is this kind of, like we were talking about this yesterday, it seemed like a headache for the White Sox on who was going to play third base. This at least is, the equivalent to an Advil, no?
Yeah, I think there was no headache for the White Sox. There was just a headache for all of us trying to figure out what was going to happen. But I think they knew all along the route that they were going to take here. Basically, they were waiting for Jacob Amaya to get here. This was a move that happened probably pretty close to or pretty late in the day yesterday. They couldn't put him on the roster. They didn't want to play, with only 25 guys. And so they called up a guy who was on the 40-man roster, Brian Ramos, in case they needed another infielder because Nick Senzel out the door because they needed to clear a 40-man spot for Jacob Amaya. So basically, after today, all the dust settles here. Brian Ramos was never going to be here to do anything He just happened to be that other infielder on the 40-man roster. They basically just swapped Nick Senzel for Jacob Amaya. It doesn't sound like Jacob Amaya is here to start. You know, he might get looks along the way, certainly, but the way Grady talked about him pregame, it was like we want to get some guys some rest, and we'll give him some opportunities where we can find him, kind of thing. They like what he does, maybe defensively, maybe be a late game replacement on that front, but he's basically here to just be Nick Senzel, I guess. And so obviously he could have more future meaning to this team because he's a little younger and has a little bit more runway maybe than Nick Senzel was ever going to have. But Brian Ramos came up here and we were all like, well, where's he going to play? And I think all along they knew that he was just going to play third base for the Charlotte Knights.
And my read on the John Brebbia news is that the White Sox are kind of doing him a solid to maybe get on a playoff roster before the rosters are actually frozen in September, or is it just the White Sox like, we couldn't trade him in before the deadline, and all right, bye, John.
Maybe. I mean, listen, I want to cut Grady Sizemore some slack. He's a guy who obviously didn't step into this to be the guy to relay the front office's thinking on some of these moves the way that a permanent manager is supposed to do, right? Pedro Grifol signed up to do that. Grady Sizemore, was an assistant coach and steps into this role and maybe doesn't have the same ability to communicate the team's thinking on some of these kind of moves. But when he's the guy in front of the microphone, we got to ask him these questions, but the answers might not be necessarily all that enlightening. And I think that's the case with this move and maybe some of the other ones in recent days. But I don't know what playoff team is looking at a guy who's got a 12.5 ERA in his last 13 outings and saying, oh boy, let's make sure we can get him in there for some postseason innings. Nothing against John Brebbia, who's obviously an experienced guy, but things had not been going well for him in the results department over his last month or so with the White Sox.
Yeah, I think half that, too, is just they put him in every appearance where rain was allowed. So thankfully he was DFA'd before today's game and they didn't have to waste 4 pitches of John Brebbia. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. We see Fred, Jack hanging out with us, Alex. So make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. If you haven't already, we got over 25 people watching us, but only 5 likes. So make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Vinny, we're going to be getting to Brian Bannister and Paul Janish in just a second. Bannister was the fresher of the 2 interviews. What was the biggest thing you took away from Brian Bannister, and what should people be listening towards a little later on in the show?
Well, I think a bunch of different people are probably going to have a bunch of different highlights from this because he's a guy who obviously talks in some big philosophical ways, and Sean, someone like you, might find that very interesting, right, in terms of the way that he's going to be taking an overall approach to the organization, the kind of things that he thinks about that might determine who the White Sox get and the kind of pitchers that the White Sox get down the road, right? And then in other cases, you might be interested in certain players, and you might be wondering what this guy whose job partially is going to be to bring along Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz thinks about those young pitchers and guys who might be the anchors of a rotation for the White Sox down the road. But overall, I think you named the podcast this, and I think that makes the most sense. A lot of people are wondering, can there be a Brian Bannister of hitting? Well, my colleague James Fegan asked Brian Bannister that kind of question and a couple of those kinds of questions today, and he provides his thoughts on that. And I think you get a little bit of an insight into what the organization at large is looking at when it comes to solving problems that might be outside of just the pitching scope. So all of that is included, and I think it's always valuable to hear from these front office types because they're the ones who are shaping what this is going to look like in a year and in what we're expecting to be a stretch of years, plural, in which the guys on the field might not have the biggest impact on what happens for the next time this team is supposed to be competitive.
And just to clear up any confusion, as Fred in the comments is saying, typical Jerry move, get people in the park, sell concessions, parking, and cancel game. What the White Sox have to say about why this game got canceled?
Yeah, I know that's an easy shot for fans to take, but the rain delay decisions are made by Major League Baseball, so that's not something that the White Sox have control over. Obviously, they've got their groundskeeper Roger Bossard and their team in the stadium to consult with the umpires and the league in general. But the White Sox said tonight that unexpected storms were the main culprit for the start and quick delay of tonight's game.
Woohoo! Fun. Vinny, you've probably been there. I mean, I guess you were expecting there to be past 10, so you get to leave a little bit early, but you also get to go there earlier tomorrow for a doubleheader. So enjoy, have fun. We'll get you out of guaranteed rate because we know you need to get back there tomorrow by, 12 hours or so. So have fun, Vin. Make sure you read him up at allchgo.com. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Vinnie Duber. Probably. He's really prompt. He's real. He's a professional.
Bright and early, fellas.
He's probably going to sleep there. He's going to close that laptop. He's going to go tuck in right behind where he's at. But anyways, Drive safe, Vinny, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you guys.
All right, cool. We're going to take a break. We got some Brian Bannister video for you. We got some Paul Janish video. I think we'll talk a little bit about Brian Ramos as well. And then our guy Sox Jack from Lyle posted a picture that we'll address and we'll talk about because the White Sox, even though there was only 4 pitches thrown, still harassing their fans.
I think there's still a bed there from the rookie last year that was sleeping during games.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know what the rookie is, and we don't want to put him actually on blast out here because it might not be him. But we have our ideas.
I am Groot.
Yes, that's what I thought too.
Let's take a break.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Illinois. My go-to Prize Pick at the moment, I mean, you guys have seen how Caitlin Clark has been playing lately with both points and assists. I go with points, rebounds, assists for her, points, rebounds, assists for Angel Reese, and watch the winnings roll in. Download the app today and use the code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Thank you, Herb. And we also want to let you know about our friends over at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. They are here to elevate your summer. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from. You got indicas, hybrids, sativa hybrids, indica hybrids. There's probably sativa indica hybrids. There's probably indica sativa hybrids. There's probably sativa dominant strains that are also, hybrids. I don't know.
Or hybrid.
They're probably hybrids. There you go. Go check out the expert guidance that you can get from their staff over at the shop nearest you. You could select from quality lines like Cresco or Floracal, and they have you covered all across Illinois. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. And here for the summer is Good News' Tea Time disposable vape, bringing a classic lemonade flavor that is perfect for the golf course because we all need help staying loose on the green. You can also check out the Free Spirit vapes and cartridges that are all new from Good News with lush mango flavor. These vapes are perfect for tapping into your flower power. We're going to go pick up some Mindy Siegel's award-winning chocolates because who doesn't like some edibles? Who doesn't like to sleep during the rain? It gets probably the best sleep of your life. Go pick up Mindy Siegel's award-winning chocolates over at Sunnyside. You can too by visiting sunnyside.shop for Bright Buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Again, promo code HICHGO at sunnyside.shop for 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, Bright Buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. I also want to give a shout out to our guy Bennett Carroll. He's shared this screenshot at 7:30 when the game went into a rain delay. I think he was probably just, scrolling, bored, looking at the White Sox schedule. And now that we sit at 31 and 101,
yep,
the Chicago White Sox those 31 wins, 13% of those wins have come from a 4-day span on May 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, where they beat the Rays and then 3 straight wins over the Guardians. So 13% of those wins came in 4 days.
Suck it, Guardians.
Yeah.
And Ray.
Take it, Guardians. It's your fault. Did you know they're 1-17 in their last 18 doubleheader games, the Guardians?
Oh, they are?
Yeah. They've won 1 doubleheader game in their last 9 doubleheaders.
I'm sure it's versus the White Sox.
It probably is against the White Sox. That's a good call.
I'm 100% sure it's versus the White Sox.
And we appreciate the thumbs up. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We got a Cubs show going on in Studio A. We got the Studio B show going on right now. I think we have a live show that's currently remote, recapping Bears After Dark, recapping Hard Knocks. There's a ton of content from CHGO. We got you on YouTube. We got you on your favorite podcast. We got you on Roku TV now as well.
We're everywhere.
We're in Dallas, folks. We're everywhere. So go check us out. We appreciate the support.
And I know you want to talk about it now because it doesn't mean anything, but I'm excited about the show that you just produced and going to be having out for this week, those Big Ten shows that you got with Joey Christopoulos.
Yeah, Joey is a great guy, put in a ton of work, and we're also working with Corey Wooten. I finally got to talk to Woot. I know that he's been my coworker for like 2 years, but still, it's like, oh my God, that's a former Bear. Like, you know, when I meet Mark Carman, it's like, okay, it's Mark Carman.
Mark Carman, who cares?
When I, a little Adam Hogue, you know, it's Adam Hogue. I've heard about him all at the Score, you know, but meeting Corey Wooten, of course, the first thing I had to say to him was, thanks for what you did to Brett Favre.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's something that he probably gets annoyed with. I didn't ask. But, you know, I mean, if you ended Brett Favre's career as a football player, it's got to feel pretty cool.
Oh, it's the best feeling in the world. That's literally what I think about when I think about Corey Wooten. Him ending Brett Favre's career. And what better thing? Like, if Brett Favre was a good person behind being a Packer, I'll be like, you know what, that's kind of sad. But Brett Favre is a piece of trash, and so I'm glad that Corey Wooten is known for ending that piece of trash's career.
Boom. All right. Someone who's not a piece of trash, our guy Jack from Lyle. Jack, we met at one of our takeovers this year, a very gregarious guy. And then he also had the video filming the dugout, pouring one out for Michael Kopech, which was a fantastic video. And then Jack walking into today's game, there were 4 pitches. People were allowed into the gates. Jack, at SoxJack from DG on Twitter, said, was told we cannot enter the stadium in these shirts by gate security. Quote, the owner sits in a box and doesn't want to see them, end quote, the security guard said. Had to button up or turn them inside out to get in. Unreal. So Jack and his buddy are wearing the matching shirts from Obvious Shirt saying, I don't like our team. And if this is true, I believe Jack.
Yeah,
I believe him.
Yes.
I think that he's telling the truth here. I don't understand it. Maybe it's just sensitivity around the big ass sell the team sign that got in over the weekend. But this is a shirt with the White Sox pinwheels.
Yes.
That has a direct quote from Chris Getz. What are you doing?
Yeah, like it's not a this team is horrible or sell the team or Jerry Reinsdorf needs to leave the White Sox. It's literal words from the man that you put as the general manager and sole baseball decision maker. He made those comments to the national media at the GM meetings in November of 2023. Yes, Obvious Shirts is like, you know what? We're going to make a shirt off of it. I actually have that shirt at my house. I have never worn it here, but I wear it every once in a while. Actually, the thing that happened, I went to the 108 Fest, and they give you that little tag you put on your name tag, and it's like, hello, my name is Herb. And I forgot to take it off before I washed it. And so I've washed it, and now like the residue of that tag is still on it, so I haven't worn it. I only wore it that one time. But yeah, it's those type of things the White Sox do. The stuff that doesn't matter of people wearing innocuous T-shirts to a game where you're going to get maybe 10,000 people. And a guy like Jack who goes to a lot of these games, and you're turning this guy away. You're turning him away and putting him and saying, hey, you got to turn that shirt around because the owner doesn't like that particular shirt. Let's get out of here. Just worrying about dumb stuff instead of, hey, how about that security stuff speed up? How about we don't shoot one of our customers or allow one of our customers to get shot? How about we put a good product on the field? None of that stuff matters. Stopping Jack and his friend from getting into the ballpark with that shirt, those are the things that matter to the White Sox.
I think that's the funniest conclusion of that suit that woman's suit where she's suing for $50K plus, is that what is discovered is that the White Sox have like a thing where they shoot a fan. Like this is not only just like this isn't an accident. Like this is something that they have done, and they finally get caught in 2023. Anyways, we have some audio and video to get to. We're gonna get to Paul Janish after the break, but everyone is waiting with anticipation and bated breath for Brian Bannister, the czar of pitching, to address not only Hagen Smith, Garrett Crochet, and our guy Noah Schultz, but also how do you get a czar of hitting? So this is about 7 minutes of Brian Bannister. We have the full video up on our CHGO Sports YouTube channel, but here is Brian Bannister being asked about how does he evaluate the White Sox a year after joining them.
You've been here now for almost a year. Just top to bottom, organizational wise, what have you noticed about the pitching depth that this organization does have?
I think they did a tremendous job of giving us a lot of interesting arms last year, and I think we went into the offseason and even spring training this year with some of the better arms in the league, and I think that's played out regardless of if those arms are still here or not right now. I think the tricky part is, from an offensive perspective, and this is not a criticism, but everybody knows we need more production there, and so we've had to subtract from the pitching side in order to kind of game plan for the future on the hitting side, as well as identify things that we can do to bring more production up here. So I've been impressed with the arms we started out with, and they've continued to go and pitch well for other teams as well. But I think regardless of if you pitch well, you have to score runs, you have to play defense, and we've been behind in those areas. So we'll keep developing pitching. Whether it's Davis Martin throwing a new changeup or Jonathan Cannon working with the Seam Effects arsenal and starting to figure that out. He's got to address some slug against lefties. But those are all things rookie pitchers have to figure out. And I thought they've done a good job of coming up and being basically league average pitchers in their first season, which is a hat tip to them. So I'm confident that we're going to keep developing pitchers, even if we have to subtract from the pitching side to bolster the other areas too. But the conversations that go on the pitching development side have been really good this year.
What do you think of the state of starting pitching as a whole? There seems to be a push around baseball to get it back to where they're going 6, 7 innings, which hasn't been the case, even especially in the playoffs. What do you think? Do you think that change is feasible to add more length to starting pitching?
Yeah, it was actually the topic of my Talk at Sabre seminar over the weekend. We've been pushed because of analytics, because of pitch data. We've been pushing the envelope for over a decade now on the pitching side, and I think what we're starting to see is the first signs of pushback in the game of baseball, which is a traditional slow-moving game, slow to respond to rules changes, things like that. We're starting to see kind of a move towards rebalancing the game. We saw it with the elimination of sticky stuff by pitchers to lower spin rates. We've seen it with the elimination of extreme defensive shifts, which were making it tough for pull-oriented lefties to get hits, things like that. With the ABS zone, the challenge zone coming to spring training next year, which I believe will happen. We've had it in AAA for a while now. Manfred talking about, the elimination of openers or having extreme penalties if you use an opener, as well as starting pitchers kind of having a minimum duration or even extending the duration of relievers. I think what you're seeing is similar to other sports. I always use golf as a comparison. In major tournaments, they make the fairways more narrow, they make the rough higher, they put restrictions on equipment, exit velos, and you see golf in 2028, they're doing a golf ball rollback to limit the distance of the tour players. So there's things I believe are on the horizon, both that have been talked about in the public realm and that I think they might consider in the future. And I think what it'll be is forcing pitchers to have better command, to throw more strikes, forcing hitters to prioritize a little more contact over trading off swing and miss for power. I think things like that will continue to get rebalanced, even though it'll probably take a while to find a way that jives with what baseball has looked like in the past and what we kind of have to do in an analytics game right now. And so I don't think just continue to push velo and insane strikeout rates both on the pitcher side and hitter side is good for the game, both from a health perspective and an entertainment perspective. But if If you look at basketball, it's all three-pointers, layups, and dunks. I was looking at Wimbledon for my speech, and it's all baseline play now, and they don't go to the net anymore. You see this kind of elimination of the middle element in all these sports because of analytics, and the middle element in baseball is putting the ball in play versus just trying to hit over the fence. So I think there's things that we're prepared for, and I'm always kind of looking ahead, what's the next thing in kind of the meta game of baseball, to be prepared to make sure we acquire the right players, that we're doing the right thing on the development side. There's things we'll make adjustments as need be, but I think changes are on the horizon.
Question I get a lot is whether the White Sox can add a Brian Bannister for hitting, and I don't think you hear necessarily analogous stories of guys tweaking their swing in one batting pad, page testing, like the way you added pitch to Davis Martin. But is there kind of a ability to have a similar impact to what you're able to do in pitching on the offensive side that this organization can look into?
A lot of what we've been doing behind the scenes is talking about how can we get better in every area, both resource-wise, data capture-wise, communication-wise, and I think we're actively addressing all of those things right now in order to achieve upside surprises with players. That's the beauty of player development nowadays, and you can literally impact a player's career with one modification, and so trying to project players is so difficult nowadays, and that's why I always talk about finding the right ingredients, because if you have things to work with on the PD side, all it takes is one good conversation or one adjustment, and all of a sudden they go from a below average player to a league average or above average player. And you want to see those things happening in all aspects of players' games, whether it's on the pitching side, the defensive side, the hitting side. So we've been talking about what does it take for us to get to the point where that's happening with all our players in all areas. And I think those conversations have been really productive and healthy. And I think it's kind of turning a new page for the organization. And I know, I'm a pitching advisor, but I've tried to just bring a lot of experiences from my previous organizations in here and kind of give some outside perspective. And I think we're going to be doing some really cool stuff in the short term that will be very good for the Chicago White Sox.
I guess, are there comparable ways to have, not quick fixes, but basically fixes that have immediate results in the way that we see where adding a pitch to a guy or changing his angle or some things where it seems like it clicks right away? It seems like that doesn't happen as often offensively, or do you see it differently?
It's definitely easier on the pitching side because I always say we set the table and the hitters have to eat off the table. And so it's easier and quicker to do on the pitching side. Hitters are more reactionary. There's a lot of bat path things. There's a lot of approach things, zone discipline and swing decision things. So a lot of it is kind of what's your macro approach to hitting. Are you able to locate parts in the zone where a pitcher's vulnerable and have the discipline on the hitting side to not chase elsewhere and really lock in? I know that was a big part of our approach on the 2021 Giants team, where we had great success on the pinch hitting side. We had a lot of upside surprises offensively, and it was able to simplify the hitting, which is so difficult to begin with, and pitchers are just getting nastier by the year with all the technology we have. And so I think you have to find ways to simplify hitting so that there are more upside surprises both at the minor league level and the major league level.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
We got.
All right, and that was Brian Bannister on what's next for the Chicago White Sox. We do have the full VOD up at CHGO Sports YouTube channel, so go check that out there if you do want to hear some more on Hagen Smith, Garrett Crochet, and Noah Schultz. Let's take a break. Want to let you know about our friends over at Ray CDJR. Shop summertime savings going on now at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and save on the perfect new vehicle for you. This August, score new, lower prices across their huge inventory during the Make This the Summer sales event. For a limited time, get 0% financing for 36 months on their most new 2024 Jeep models, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you during each step of your car shopping journey. With Ray's Price Promise, the numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you could expect to shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's Price Promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. And since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry into Ray CDJR today and shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com, serving the community since 1963. We also want to let you know about our friends over at FOCO. You can get fitted in the best sports gear around with our friends over at FOCO. Use code CHGO on non-presale items to get 10% off over at FOCO.com. If you're going to a basketball or hockey game, you could show off with team-branded friendship bracelets over at FOCO. They have hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between for you to search for. They have jackets, beach wears, and even overalls. There's everything for the fan for almost every single occasion. We also have some set decorations. I don't think any of them made them into Studio B today.
They didn't.
But we got Studio A ones that
Couldn't
are
grab
decked
them
out.
because the damn Cubs are over there.
No, they got a live show. We got a lovely, cute little Southpaw bobblehead out there. And, one day there'll be a Colson Montgomery bobblehead. And maybe our friends over at FOCO can make a Brian Bannister bobblehead.
Perfect.
He needs it. Go check out FOCO.com, FOCO.com, or click the link in the description below for online presale items. Use the promo code CHGO10 for 10% off. All right, I think the most interesting part of that Bannister thing for me was when he started talking about different sports and the elimination, this is his quote, the elimination of the middle element, talking about how tennis players, it's mainly baseline play. It's not a lot of stuff at the net. For baseball players, it's not putting the ball into play. It's hitting home runs. I forgot what the other...
Basketball, three-pointers,
right.
and dunks.
Yeah, no mid-range games because analytics are taking out that middle element. I don't hate that analytics are taking out that middle element. I'm fine with it. But still, I understand the idea of being a full, well-rounded baseball player. So, first of all, do you think that the White Sox could gain some edge here with that idea of the middle element and maybe bringing that back into baseball, adopting a little bit more of that middle element and putting the ball in play?
Yes, but also I don't know if they have the people to do it, the on-base people to do it, or bat-the-ball skilled people to do it. But also, I would think that Brian Bannister and Lawrence Holmes used to talk about this all the time, how a pitcher can know what hitters do by the pitch they throw and what the hitter was looking for. Wondering if Brian Bannister, he doesn't necessarily need to do it, but if he can reverse engineer that, like, okay, I'm on a 1-1 count. I've already thrown a fastball in, and I've thrown a changeup away. If I'm a hitter, what would I be looking for? And try to reverse engineer his pitching mind to have the batters be better prepared for what a pitcher would be going through. And so kind of like, okay, this is what I would be going for. If I just threw those two pitches, that my strong pitch is this, you should be looking for that type of thing. Because right now, as Brian Bannister's talking about, baseball is looking for ways for more balls in play. These years in the 20s have been the worst years for balls in play in Major League history. And so you're not getting the action that Rob Manfred and the audience that he wants to bring in, the younger audience, if there's not more action of balls in play, more strikeouts, and less action actually on the base pass, then he's going to change the game dramatically. And Brian was talking about a little of the things that the golf game is going to be doing, tamping down some of the clubs and the equipment so you're not hitting it as far as you can, like Bryson DeChambeau. I'm sure there'll be a correction of how dominant and pitchers have been and how weak batters have been in the last, I don't know how long. And I know the new school people are like, well, it's because of Lonchenko. Lonchenko was brought up by Ted Williams back in the 40s. So if you got a beef with Lonchenko, go and talk to Ted Williams' dissevered head about that. But the thing is, I think that there is a thing where market inefficiency that the White Sox should exploit. Find players like Rico Nishida, a guy who with great bat-to-ball skills. Maybe not a top prospect because he's not even the White Sox top 30, but a guy that puts ball in play, gets on base, and uses his speed to produce runs. Now, you can't get a bunch of 5'6", 190-pound middle infielders, but you can try to go for those type of players instead of going for the big slug players, because when the White Sox go for the big slug players, it doesn't seem that they can develop those players into actual major league home run hitters.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen the White Sox not spend like we would like them to in free agency. So if you see a finished product that's not, I don't know, noodle arm in left field, if you get sign a guy that can hit 35 homers, go out and do it.
Yeah.
Please. I think we would love that. If you want to go find 100 Rico Nishidas and then find your Albert Bell in free agency, perfect. I think people would be excited by that. But yeah, the quote where Bannister says, hitters are more reactionary. There's a lot of bat pet things. There's a lot of approach things, zone discipline and swing discipline things. So a lot is going on your macro approach to hitting. Are you able to locate parts of the zone where a pitcher is vulnerable and have discipline on the hitting side to not chase elsewhere and really lock in? I know that was a big part of our approach on the 2021 Giants team. We had some great success on the pinch hitting side, something the White Sox don't do. Nope. But we had a lot of upside surprises offensively and was able to simplify hitting, which is so difficult to begin with. And pitchers are getting nastier by the year with all the technology they have. So it's really just Brian Bannister saying you just have to really acquiesce to the pitcher.
Yes.
And I mean, it's just really impossible to hit. Always has been impossible to hit. It was pretty impossible for Miguel Cabrera to hit through 2009 and 2012 when he was facing 50% four-seam fastballs under 94 miles per hour. And here's Aaron Judge facing over 50%, 95 plus. It just seems like an extremely difficult game. And I think the true way that they're going to fix this is either moving the mound back or forcing something like this 6-inning rule where you're just going to have degraded stuff throughout the game. So hopefully they can find something. Hopefully they can find a Brian Bannister of hitting, but it seems more likely that, the White Sox just have to react and, be better.
And
they also have no talent too.
No, that's terrible. And they've drafted all right, but I don't think they can develop talent, and that's part of Chris Getz's job and now Paul Janish's job to develop the talent that they actually do draft. But I would think that the White Sox would be more inclined to hire somebody that has a young, fresh mind about hitting. The Cubs have hired those type of people, and, the Cubs this year haven't hit as well early, but now they're starting to put bat on ball and crush the Pirates right now, and their philosophies are more understood by top to bottom. I don't know if there's a single message from major leagues to minor leagues for the White Sox. If there is, it's failing miserably because you don't see any consistency with at-bat to at-bat from game to game. The 3-0 on Sunday that Andrew Vaughn got and took, the 3-0 he got on Monday was a different thing. It was pretty much the same pitch. He fouled it back, but he swung at that one. I don't get the thought there because that first pitch or that first game, it was a 2-run game. That would have been the game I would have let him loose on, the 3-0 pitch, because he's supposed to be a power hitter, and that would have been the pitch to tie the game. He just took that one, and eventually I think he walked in that one. But there's not a consistent message from top to bottom. There isn't any Brian Bannister, and I don't know if there could be a hitting czar necessarily in the White Sox or anybody's organization.
Well, Brian Bannister did talk about the things on the player development side, and all it takes is one good conversation or one adjustment, and all of a sudden they go from a below-average player to a league-average or above-average player. Who's the guy in player development? I know
what you're doing.
No, well, you smacked your lip. What do you want to say?
I was just saying. I know where you were going. I was just saying, where's that player at?
What player?
He's referencing that one player with that conversation that you can go from a below average player to a
Davis Martin.
That's on the pitching side.
Anyways, the guy that might be the Brian Bannister of pitching, the director of player development, Paul Janish. We have about 8 minutes of Paul Janish, and again, the full entire Paul Janish VOD will be up on our CHGO YouTube channel. But the biggest thing with Paul Janish, the biggest thing that you're talking about, finding one of those guys, those big boppers in the middle. We thought it was Colson Montgomery. How is Colson Montgomery done in Paul Janish's eyes? Not found, so we're not gonna hear from Paul Janish yet.
Sorry, Paul Janish.
Yeah, my bad, Paul Janish. Oops. Anyways, Montgomery has been struggling, but I think I kind of want to get your thoughts here. Yep. He's going to finish out the season at Charlotte. Yep. Probably going to wrap up around September. The first question is, will you bring Montgomery up? I am all for Colson Montgomery waiting. if he doesn't make his major league debut until 2025,
yes,
I don't care. Do you feel similar?
I feel exactly the same way because it doesn't really. He hasn't earned his way up to the major league level, and I know people are like, well, Brian Ramos didn't either, but that was of necessity that he got called up the first time he got called up back in the day. And this past week where he got called up and then sent right back down, I know people on Twitter were up in arms about the White Sox. I think that was more of a procedural move, and Vinny pretty much cleared it out. They needed a player up here at the major leagues. They didn't have a assignment for Jacob Amaya yet until today, and so they're like, okay, we lost a third baseman. We need to bring a third baseman up, and that's why Brian Ramos was brought up yesterday and then sent back immediately. But that's a guy I would look at more as a power bat and Brian Ramos more than Colson Montgomery because he's shown it lately where he's turning on the power a little bit lately, and it seems like AAA he's kind of adjusting to the game. I don't know if Colson Montgomery this whole year has adjusted to what AAA has thrown at him, and that will be great for him to go another year, maybe a year, like a month or two into his AAA in 2025 and say, okay, now I got it. Call me up, White Sox, because I'm sure the White Sox are not going to go up and get a shortstop in the offseason to, do the Paul DeYoung thing that they did this year to just be a placeholder because they know that Colson Montgomery is dorming.
No Tim Anderson comeback sure?
I mean,
2025?
I'm always in for Tim Anderson coming back, but that man might just be washed.
Said maybe Tim Anderson's going to be the one who saves me.
That's pretty good right there.
There you go.
And they're coming back. It's all topical, too?
That was the point.
Wow, look how topical you are, man.
Yeah, I know.
That's not their best song, though.
No. Champagne Supernova is better.
By far.
By far.
It is a classic jam. I listened to that the other day. I was like, man, but even though they just say pretty much the same sentence throughout, classic jam.
It's 7 minutes and 31 seconds. So that's the part. I get why Wonderwall became the hit because it's a little bit more digestible. It's easier listening. Mm-hmm. Don't Look Back in Anger is probably one of the better Oasis songs. Live Forever, I think, is my favorite. Mm-hmm. Anyways, Sarah, do we have Paul Janish?
She
1 minute.
knows
Okay.
It's too late when she's walking on by. Yeah, I had that whole.
They didn't even need the Gallagher brothers. Herb Lawrence could have just done this.
What's the Story, Morning Glory? I had that whole album. That was one of the first CDs I bought by myself. It was just a quality album. I'm glad the brothers have patched up their differences for the moment. We all know with the Gallagher brothers, this stuff can go off the rails again because Noel and Liam don't get along too well.
All it takes is Liam calling Noel short, and there you go. And hey, I mean, what was little Herb Lawrence walking into the record store and be like, "Can I have the Oasis record?" Like, are you saying you went out in your own fruition and bought this?
Yes.
You bought it with your own money,
Both.
or like no one's influencing you. This is Herb Lawrence's first music choice.
Yeah, I think it was 1996. I was like a senior in high school. Somebody sang it in our our talent show. Did the Wonderwall acoustic, and that dude was like, man, it was the ladies' man. I was like, I want to be like that guy, and so I got that album. And I was like, I'm gonna sing Wonderwall and learn how to play the acoustic guitar. Learn one of those things.
Acoustic guitar?
No.
Oh, you could sing Wonderwall?
Just Wonderwall.
Okay, all right. Paul Janish, I don't know if he could sing Wonderwall or not, but we can ask him if Colson Montgomery will be up in the majors by 2024. Here's Paul Janish.
Shoot. We want we want Montgomery now, okay? Can you bring him up?
I just work here.
Can you talk about his progress a little bit and where you think he's at?
Yeah, I think one of the main things to highlight, we can all agree, Colson struggled a little bit offensively this year for the first time in his career. We've highlighted this before, but it's the first time. This will be, knock on wood here, his first full season of health at the minor league level as well, so there's that going on. I give him a lot of credit for the defense that he's played this year, despite, us maybe perceiving him struggling offensively. He's played a very good defensive shortstop, which, as we can all agree, at some point we're going to ask him to come to Chicago and play the shortstop position. That's a big deal. He's, despite getting 5 hits in the last couple of days, he on the year he struggled a little bit offensively. But talking to Colson, and as I'm sure some of you guys have, he's still very open about talking about the fact that he hasn't performed as well as he knows he can, and he's still very intent on being a very good major league player, which obviously we are expecting that and fully fully supportive of him still at this point and all that. So I give him a lot of credit for how he's handled the first time that he's ever struggled, and hopefully this will be the part of the process in him becoming completely ready to play at the major league level.
What are the criteria and the bars that you want him to hit?
I think that's probably a slippery slope, trying to give, exact criteria for like he needs to be hitting this average or have this OPS. I think that's, especially at this juncture in the season, that probably doesn't make a ton of sense. Understanding from an ability standpoint, he's proven in the past that he can hit, right? He can do some things that other people can't do offensively, and so we'll just continue to support him, continue to get him going in the right direction with regards to finishing the season healthy. Looking forward, we're not done with the season this year. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility he gets hot and has the ability to play in the major leagues this year, right? But all that to say, I think we want to be really intentional about not being in a big rush with Colson. I think it's important to realize we need to do what's best for Colson, and that's not necessarily black and white. We're going to obviously include him in that process with regards to communication, but he's unique just because we want him to be part of the White Sox for a long period of time, not just for this September or whatever.
If it's not stats-based stuff, what are some of the things outside of the box score that you are looking for him to improve on?
Yeah, one of the things I highlighted, just mentioning the fact that he's showing up every single day, still working hard, still from a mentality standpoint, still in a good place with regards to, I understand I'm not playing as well as I know I can. That being said, he knows he's a good player. He knows he wants to be a good major league player. The fact that he's had some offensive struggles in Charlotte, I think, again, we've said this before, but I think we will look back and highlight it as a positive.
What did you take away from Hagen?
And that is Paul Janish. The full VOD will be up at CHGO Sports YouTube channel. That was just a little bit on him with Colson Montgomery. He also talks about Hagen Smith and if Hagen could be up to AA. Also talks about Noah Schultz and Edgar Caro. I think the biggest thing to update on Caro, Janish said, Edgar's had such a good year, and he's such a good kid. I think a lot of him, and I've said it before, that he's going to get the opportunity to play at the major league level, and I think he'll have success. But at this juncture of the season, I think we just need to make sure that he's completely healthy. It doesn't sound like anything terrible or long-term. I don't think he's done for the year or anything like that. But that being said, it doesn't make a ton of sense to push him at this point. We're at the point of the season where if we did push him and he came back too soon and he got dinged up again, he's probably done for the year. So we're just trying to avoid that and see if we can't get him back on the field sooner than late. So any takeaways from Colson, Edgar Caro, Bryan Ramos, even his up and down?
I mean, he praises defense. That's good because we know last year that defense was not the thing for Colson Montgomery. So can he be a major league shortstop? It's still in question, but if he's going from one point to another and he's seeing this as a positive that he's at least played defense and not letting the bat struggles go with the glove, that's cool. But yeah, and I would have wanted Edgar Caro to be here at the major leagues, but as you just read off, there's no reason to push this kid for extra. You know what you got in this kid. What he's done in Double and Triple A this year tells me everything I need to know about Edgar Caro. Tells me that next year in spring training, he will be battling, I hope, for a starting job with Corey Lee to start this season off. I would want that because next year's lost. I want the best players available, and if he's better than Corey Lee, play him.
I think he is better than Corey Lee, and honestly, if you can't beat Corey Lee in spring training, either Corey Lee is a star, like we thought he was all throughout the year because of our trustworthy companion, John Triffin, or it's just because, Edgar Caro kind of stinks, and that's kind of the worst-case scenario. I think Edgar Caro should be the starting catcher for the White Sox in 2025. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I mean, and 4 out of 5 starts. Not that 3 out of 5 garbage where you give Corey Lee a blow. You give Corey Lee bats. This isn't
Maldonado, though. I mean, Corey Lee's 26. I especially with Caro, I don't mind if it's 2 of a 3-game series. He's catching 2 of those 3 games. Lee's catching the 3rd.
No, get your beak wet. Get it fully wet. And if you need a blow in the middle of the year where Corey Lee is catching fire, needs 2 games in a row, smooth. But I want the catcher of the future who is a switch hitter, so there won't be any hitting advantages. Yeah. I want him to play as much as he can. I already know what Corey Lee is, a solid major league backup. And that's probably his ceiling. And that's fine. That's great. Well, we got him for Kendall Graveman. Hey, that's a good thing that Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn did out the door. got us a backup catcher for life. But Edgar Carroll has proven in the short time he's been with the White Sox that he can hit. The hit tool is there. And that's one of the things the White Sox do need is the hit tool. And I've always talked about a meritocracy. This is the way you should run your team. I don't care if he's young. I don't care if you already got Corey Lee on the team. I care about, hey, go forward with this kid. And if he can do whatever he does in the rookie year, I'm not looking for him to hit 20 home runs in his rookie year or hit close to 280. He's going to struggle. Major Leagues is a total different animal than what AAA is and the International League. He'll struggle. I want him to struggle. 2025 is all about struggling. We know it's going to be a bad year. Put better players on the field, and one of those better players is Edgar Carroll.
Just for context, I hear your point, but even Adley Rutschman only plays and has started 61% of Baltimore's games at catcher. Adley also has gotten some time at DH.
DH in first place, right?
Just DH, catcher and DH. I think if you want to give him shots at DH, we've seen Corey Lee be DH. I'm cool with that, but I'm fine if he plays about 60% of the White Sox game as the starting catcher. And if we do see Corey Lee, even for 40 to 50 games as the starter, I really don't care.
I'm fine with 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, 4 out of 6?
Works.
Okay. If that's worse somehow. All right. I feel like it's the same. Is it?
No, I mean.
4 out of 6 simplifies to 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
So.
That's 66. That's more, actually. 3 out of 5 is 60%.
So there you go. What are you even complaining about? You just want numbers you like. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at ExtraWall23 as our CHGO White Sox community leader. Thank you to Sarah for producing our show. Thank you to Vinnie Duber for joining us from Guaranteed Rate Field. We have a double header to recap tomorrow.
I know Alex wanted more Illini stuff. Right there. Got the block Illini letters. Boom.
ILI.
Dun, 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 dun.
Wait, I think I said
Thursday.
ILI.
That's what it works. Thursday, Eastern Illinois. Let's go.
Don't tell Cody.
Season is goddamn back.
Don't tell Cody. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox postgame show. We will talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.